we're talking to the
Yes.
DepDev, or Department of Economy, Planning and Development Undersecretary for Policy and Planning, Rosemary Adilion. Welcome to Storycon, Yusek Adilion.
Magandang hapon po.
Magandang hapon.
Hi,
Yusek.
Yusek.
Yes, magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat.
So I guess the first place to start is if you could explain to us, I mean, we know what being an upper middle income status entails, pero ano po yung benefit to the ordinary Filipinos? Maybe you could start with that.
Oh yes, so itong upper middle income status nga, this is actually a classification being used by the World Bank, no? Para i-classify niya yung mga countries according to income. Tapos ng income na to, well, first of all, yun nga, yung gross national income siya, no? So ibig sabihin, kasama dito yung income ng ating mga OFW. So lahat po ng nationals ng Philippines kasama po dito, which is different from the gross domestic product. Kasi yung gross domestic product, kung ano lang po yung na-produce domestically in the Philippines. So this is gross national income divided by the total number of nationals of the Philippines. And then, so this is actually also corrected for cost of living differences, so that it doesn't matter where you are in the world, that income will actually be able to afford you that same level of goods and services even though you are in the advanced countries. So in some cases, for some investors, they still look at individual indicators of what we call macroeconomic fundamentals, but others just look on the income classification. So in this case, being an upper middle income country, it actually brings us into that bucket of those some sort of a seal of good standing with respect to income. So this one will actually also attract some investments, and therefore hopefully it will also bring about the quality jobs that we want.
Ma'am, of course, it's all based on averaging and a lot of things are lost when you do averaging. So let me ask you, for the benefit of people who are not that familiar with the economics and with the numbers, basically kasi tumaas yung gross national income natin, ibig sabihin tumaas yung pag pinagsama-sama mga income ng mga Pilipino for a year, mas malaki. So I can imagine ang tanong ng maraming tao, kaninong income ang tumaas? Kasi hindi kami. I can imagine maraming sasabi ng gano'n.
Hindi income ko.
Oo. So sino po ang nakinabang at gumanda ang numbers, yung total numbers?
Dagdag po sa
sinabi
sinabi ni Ed, naglabas po kasi ngayon ng statement yung pinakamalaking trade union Congress of the Philippines. Sabi nila, halimbawa, may 5 million minimum wage earners ka na 780 pesos per day yung sahod. At sa BARM, 411 per day. So, ibig sabihin, parang dapat kung upper middle income tayo, dapat upper middle income din daw yung kanilang wages. No? So, mahalaga ho na maipaliwanag. What's happening?
Yeah, tama po yan. No? Isa po to sa parang what we call limitations of an average, what an average really is. Kasi titingnan nga po natin yung the income of all Filipinos. So it doesn't matter kung ikaw yun nandun sa bottom of the income ladder o ikaw yun nandun sa taas.
Opo.
Pero on average po, ang nakita rin namin is, well, on average, syempre nakita nga na tumaas, no? Pero kung titingnan din po natin yung latest na Family Income and Expenditure Survey, tumaas din naman po yung incomes ng mga nasa baba. In terms of percentage, mas mataas din po yung tinaas nila. Pero syempre, pag inano mo yan in terms of levels, hindi pa rin yan ganoon kataas. So kumbaga may mga naging there has been progress across all levels, but of course it's not uniform sa lahat ng mga tao.
Yusek, maliit lang yung yung taas ng GNI natin doon sa threshold to become upper middle income. And ang challenge ngayon is to sustain it. Baka bumalik tayo doon sa dati. Medyo nakakahiya yun. And the Management Association of the Philippines said while they welcomed the new classification, kailangan daw may reforms. Ano yung nakikita niyong possible na nasa to-do list dapat ng gobyerno?
Yes, tama po yan. The challenge really is to be able to sustain this, na sana patuloy yung pagtaas. This is really a milestone, no? Kasi it's mga 40 years in the making to. So, ang challenge natin is patuloy pa yung pagtaas ng income na to. The first thing that we need to do now, at in right away, is to accelerate yung spending on capital spending, especially of government. Kasi this one will increase our capacity to grow. So we need to invest more on infrastructure para mas mas malaki yung magiging capacity natin. We can have more trade, we can have more shipments, we can actually entertain more visitors, tourists, ganyan. At the same time, we need to invest a lot on human capital kasi ito rin talaga magdadala sa atin to the next level. So we need to invest in upskilling of our human capital kasi ang gusto nga natin is the quality jobs, but we cannot have the quality jobs if we do not invest in the upskilling of our people. So malaking bagay itong human capital investments natin, not just on education but also on health. And then of course yung social protection, as you know, ang dami nating calamities coming our way. Ngayon pa lang marami na, no? And every time there's a calamity, bumabalik tayo medyo nare-reverse yung gains natin. So we have to do a lot in terms of being able to recover quickly and better para the next time the same calamity hopefully not comes, we will come out stronger. So ang isa rin sa namin dito is we need to really aggressively promote innovation as a driver of economic growth. Kasi habang nag-a-advance ang ating country, dapat padami yung yung magiging variety of products and services that we can actually produce and we can commercialize. So dito papasok yung innovation. Na kadikit din ito yung investments natin on research and development, pati na rin yung mga sa mga researchers natin, and of course yung mga tinatawag namin na innovation infrastructure including on technology.
Yusek, paano naman yung mga ibang strategic elements ng ating economy? Paano yung ating economy kasi is basically boosted by remittances at saka government spending. Yung ating mga neighbors, yung manufacturing industry tsaka agriculture nila is very strong. Especially halimbawa yung Vietnam, nakakalampas lang sa atin several years ago. So ano yung plano dito sa mga sector na ito para hindi naman tayo dependent lang sa remittances and purely government spending?
And actually, it's remittances that pulled up our average, no? Our average GNI per capita.
Yes.
Yeah, tama po yun, no? And that is why we are really looking at improving the productivity of our people, of our economy. And pag sinasabi po natin productivity, ang kakambal po talaga nito is technology adoption, no? So para imbis na kunwari nananahi ka using a very parang slow sewing machine, nandoon ka na sa high speed, yon. So at the same time na nakaka-produce ka ng mas marami, mas nagiging productive, mas marami rin yung magiging kita mo. So in everything actually, malaking susi dito yung investment in technology, and as much as possible gusto sana natin mga homegrown technology, and that's the reason why we want to promote innovation amongst our people, and then yun na rin yung technology adoption. So kaya nandiyan din yung investment natin, let's say on the Luzon Economic Corridor. Ito mga high-tech industries ang gusto natin dito. So para naman maging ma-optimize natin yung pagkakaroon natin ng Luzon Economic Corridor, ang kailangan talaga dito, meron tayong workforce development program para yung mga magtatrabaho dito ay manggagaling din sa atin, manggagaling din sa hanay ng Pinoy. Hangga't maaari nga pwede nating ma-encourage yung ating mga OFWs to come back kasi alam natin sila meron na ng know-how na yan para makatulong na sila dito sa atin.
But if we encourage more of the OFWs to come back, baka bumaba ulit yung GNI per capita. But
Ay, hindi po, kasi malalaki po yung magiging domestic portion. Kasi dalawang
yeah,
bagay po yun,
okay.
no? Yung domestic
Yeah.
production tsaka yung sa
Yeah.
yung sa national income. So kung magiging malaki naman po yung yung sa domestic production natin, kahit na mas maliit yung ambag ng GNI, so parang nung net primary income, on the whole magiging mas malaki pa rin po 'yan.
But can we talk about the practical implications of being classified as a UMIC, an upper middle income country? What's going to happen to our concessional financing and to preferential tariff rates?
Yeah, yung sa preferential tariff rate, by and large, that really depends on whether or not we have a free trade agreement, no? And for the past couple or 2 or 3 years, we have been very aggressive in negotiating many bilateral trade agreements. I think for this year we will be able to close if not 3 or 4 na mga bilateral trade agreements natin and mga regional na trade agreements. So wala po tayong problema sa preferential tariff arrangements natin, no. Now with respect to concessional loans, this one ang pagkakaalam po namin is we will be given a grace period, mga 3 years po yun. So where we can transition. Kasi what this also means is that pwede na kasi tayong magkaroon ng mga commercial placements with respect to raising capital. So hindi na tayo kailangan pumunta sa mga yung mga ODA natin, pwede na tayo mag-go commercial. And big sabihin, we will actually have more options, but that also means that we need to improve the quality of our investments para maging attractive to the international investors. At the same time, we also need to demonstrate na kaya nating magbayad. So kailangan natin pagbutihin palalo, no, yung ating fiscal prudence, yung ating mga macroeconomic fundamentals, at malaki actually magiging papel dito ng private sector natin kasi kailangan makapag-demonstrate sila ng that mas mataas na ability to earn returns.
But that's going to be a challenging, if not terrifying, gamble in the next 3 years if we don't step up. And we lose the ODA.
Because going
Ang laki ng
commercial,
ODA natin eh. Do you
Because-
have a ballpark figure? How much
yeah.
might be at stake
Yeah.
kung sakasakala within the next 3 years?
Yeah. Tama po yun, and that's the reason why naging very active din naman kami very active and strategic, no, with respect to tapping our ODA. Specifically, that's the sort of mga projects where may advantage yung ating development partners. Like for instance, yung mga subway, mukhang mas maganda nga yatang development partner ang kausap natin doon para they will also provide the expertise, no? Yung mga airports natin para magaganda rin, mga state of the art. Ganun yung ginawa natin sa very strategic tayo sa pagtap ng ODA. And the reason for that also is so that the sort of infrastructure that we will be developing is actually pwede nating ipagmalaki na this consistent with our UMIC status.
Pero mawawala yung access natin to certain ODA lines, hindi ba?
Opo. May transition
magkano
po
kaya
doon. Yeah, may transition po doon, and for the most part it will actually be kumbaga aligned na dapat with their priorities. Meron din kasi ngayon na ang nagiging appetite ngayon ng mga investors, especially kung sa European, no, yung mga green financing. So if we can have programs or projects na where we can show that it actually is a sustainable development sort of financing or project, na it will be it's leading towards, let's say, circular economy or yung mga renewable energy project. Ito po, may appetite pa rin po dito ang mga ang mga even commercial lenders at that, and they are willing to give concessional rates for this.
Halimbawa yung Japan yen loan, that's our biggest ODA package. Eligible pa ba tayo doon kung sakasakali after 3 years?
It really depends on the appetite din ng ano no ng Japanese investors kasi sa ngayon
Yes.
itong the past years kasi masyadong mababang interest rate sa ano sa Japan. So
Yes.
ibig sabihin kung magpautang sila sa kanilang mga Japanese investors din, ang baba ng pwede nilang i-charge. And so dagdagan nila ng konti, yun na yung sa atin. May konti pa rin silang kita. So depende pa rin po. But what we know is with respect to Japan, marami pa rin ho tayo na common interests eh. So I think
Yeah.
we can still benefit.
Ma'am, let me follow up on Ami's question earlier. I understand so the reclassification in part is because of the numbers that we showed, for example, last year, 2025, yung ating growth, for example. Pero this year does not seem to be as optimistic. First quarter, year on year, we had, 2.8, and inflation is so high. So there's also that concern by the time we're up for review, I think by July 1 next year, if you look at what the numbers could be this year, baka mag-slide tayo ulit. How stable are we in that position now?
Yeah, it is still the element of syempre yung cautious optimism natin, no. We have done some calculations, but it really hinges on us being able to catch up on government spending for this second half of the year, and I think that's actually in the work plan of our infrastructure agencies. Nakita rin naman natin na nagre-ramp up sila. So kasi nga may pag government spending kasi may validity yung budget eh. So kailangan talaga nilang spend 'yon eh. So we're banking on that, and of course we already have as you know modest na population growth. So isa rin 'yun sa that's another thing going for us.
Yusek, can I just come back to Ami's question? So I take it to mean DepDev does not yet have an estimate for the potential ODA or grants or any other concessional
Affected.
financing loss. Wala pa pong estimate.
Yeah, at least for the next 3 years, we are sure that nandun pa tayo sa grace period.
Okay.
And then the strategy really going forward is to align our sort of yung mga projects natin that's up for international financing with the development priorities of the creditor. So like I said, yung mga sustainable financing. So yun ang pwede nating we can raise capital internationally.
Yeah.
As for the rest, dito natin sa
Yeah.
sa local i-raise. Kaya kasama rin talaga dito, we need to what we call deepen yung ating capital market, no? Kailangan natin ng inclusive financing, kailangan pa rin natin ng mas marami pa na maging entrepreneur ng mga Pilipino, not just hindi lang yung sila mismong magbi-business, no, pero pwedeng sila yung makikibigay ng kapital para sa
Yeah.
business. So
But-
kailangan din natin ng very innovative na mga banks that will offer other investment options para sa mga yung mga kayang mag-invest.
Yeah. I understand what you're saying about when you said we can go commercial now, meaning we can tap the commercial markets to borrow, but going commercial also means paying higher interest
Mas
rates,
mahal.
correct? Mas mahal siya.
Yes.
Are we ready for
Tama
that?
Tama po 'yun. So, and it really depends on yung returns, no, to our investment, and therefore we really need to be able to package good projects. Like I said, for now, ang ating nakikita na na paraan is aligning yung mga projects na to with kung ano yung appetite ng ating mga development partners. So not even the commercial lenders, no, like I said, yung mga renewable energy projects, yung mga circular economy na mga projects na to, eto merong may appetite dito mga commercial lenders.
Just last
Now-
week, DepDev cut the GDP targets for the Philippines down to 3.5% to 4.5%, malayo po sa 5 to 6%. At the same time, the executive is proposing 7.2 trillion pesos in budget next year, another record high. Of course, any economist will tell you that slow economic growth paired with high spending is not a good combo. How will we finance this budget, Yusek?
Yeah, we expect that this slowdown in the GDP for this year is it's really because of as you know, we had the slow government spending especially during the first quarter, no, and then we had the Middle East crisis. So ito yung mga nakikita natin na downside, but we do expect a strong recovery by next year. So it's not just us, no, even the other analysts are actually looking at the recovery by next year. So, para sumabay din dito, that's the reason why we have this expenditure program, which is really towards a recovery, which is really about again ramping up yung ating mga spending on the needed infrastructure.
But how will we finance the expenditure program with such a low growth and not so high revenue collections?
Yeah, we are actually maintaining our medium-term fiscal program, no? So na-compute na rin namin yung magiging deficit nito. Sorry, I don't have the exact number with me, no? Pero pababa naman yung deficit to GDP ratio na to. Kasi this is part of our commitment sa ating mga international partners din, no, that we will be undertaking a program of fiscal consolidation. So pababa po to all the way to 2030. So nandiyan din po yung dahil nga may expectation tayo ng recovery by next year. Take note that we will be coming off from a low base. Itong 2026, low base po to, no? So in 2027, that's also the reason why we have a stronger growth for 2027. And so, kasama po dito sa recovery, pati na rin po yung recovery ng ating revenue generation.
Merong senior economist, Yusek from DepDev, sabi niya, the middle class is bearing the heaviest burden of a squeeze economy. Yun ang tawag niya, squeeze economy. Middle class daw nag-absorb ng high prices, ang taas daw ng borrowing cost, pero wala namang, hindi eligible for the ayuda that is being given out by the government. Anong nakikita niyo na pwedeng gawin along those lines para ma-mitigate naman?
Opo. At saka talking about the middle class, no, so you mentioned nga yung isang reason nga rin to na nakita na rin ng World Bank. We have actually an increasing middle class, except that sa ngayon nandun pa sila sa vulnerable. So, ibig sabihin, ang talagang kailangan po is ma-improve yung kanilang resilience. So we have to offer them access to inclusive financing. Tapos syempre nakita niyo naman po na nagkaroon na rin ng wage increase, no, in NCR, and magkakasunod na rin po to sa ibang regions, although we don't know yet kung magkano magiging agreement pag sa ibang regions, but this will be part of that. Tapos nandun din naman po yung mga mga program natin, let's say on although hindi sila mag-qualify for the ayuda, but there are still programs, let's say, with respect to healthcare, with respect to education assistance, and then for our MSMEs, marami rin pong programa ang DTI para makatulong po sa ating mga small businesses.
The deficit, you were talking, Yusek, about the deficit earlier. Based on the DBCC documents, it's 1.658 trillion pesos for this year. As a share to GDP, it's about 5.4%. Tapos next year, it's expected to inch up to 1.611 trillion deficit. Then 2028 is 1.695 trillion. Tama. And sorry, 1.722 trillion in 2028. So we are going to be increasing the deficit this year, next year, 2028, before it contracts in 2029.
Pero po as a proportion of GDP, it should be declining.
5.3, marginally 5.3 to 5.1% next year.
Yeah,
Pero
yeah,
malaki
that's
pa
right.
rin yung utang, Yusek. So I guess the follow-on question from that is, do we anticipate having to raise taxes, for example, to close that deficit?
Yeah. Right now, there's not much talk about raising taxes except for taxes that have to do with a clean environment. So, like the single-use plastic tax. So, yun po ang nagiging it's advancing more rapidly with respect to the other taxes po. Walang ganong discussion pa.
Okay. And if I could just come back to your... Did you want to say something?
No.
Okay. Kala ko magsalita si Ronald. If I could just come back to yung tariffs, you said that depends on the free trade agreements that we're working out. Do you mean na ma-offset ng mga potential FTAs yung loss in tariff rates, tariff preferential rates? Specifically, for example, with EU GSP Plus. Of course, the EU also looks at World Bank data in order to
Yeah.
determine country classifications. So, ano pong mangyayari doon?
We have an ongoing negotiation with the EU. Meron tayong EU PHFTA that is currently under negotiation. We hope to finish it by this year. You're correct, no? Previous to this, nandun tayo sa GSP Plus, and that one actually is not really dependent on our income status. It's more on our being able to achieve or meet yung International Convention on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights. So yun, so tinitingnan nila yung report ng UN High Commission. Kapag nakikita nilang maayos naman yung compliance natin, kasama pa tayo sa GSP. But this time, ang ginawa na nga natin is to negotiate a straight up na FTA with them.
The 3 FTAs that you're talking about that we're working on this year are EU, Canada, and is it UAE?
UAE.
Yeah, UAE, right?
UAE. Tapos meron pa rin with supposedly with Chile, pero hindi ko alam kung ano yung progress pa nun.
We're also talking to Chile for an FTA.
By way of sustaining itong upper middle income status na to, ano yung nakikita niyo malaking problema? What are the headwinds?
Well, for now, as in right now talaga,
Yes.
it's really about being able to ramp up our government spending. Yes, it's really about that. Yan. Tapos syempre
Pero ang
yun na rin.
problema dyan, USEC, corruption.
Tama po
Malaking
yan.
problema yan.
Yeah, tama yan.
Yun nga,
That's
Yusek,
why
yung-
actually in our recommendation nga, ang number 1 namin doon is we really need to demonstrate a strong commitment to good governance reforms, no? And kung susundan niyo rin po yung nagiging usapan ngayon sa LEDAC po, no?
Yes.
Yung ating Philippine Budgeting Code, isa po to sa masusi naming sinusundan sa DBCC, no? Kasi marami po ang kumbaga mga problema natin sa budgeting na pwedeng masolusyonan itong budgeting code na to. For instance, yung mga unprogrammed appropriations, magkakaroon na po siya ng parang cap.
cap.
Tapos ano lang yung mga pwedeng ilagay doon talaga. Yun po yung
Ano
mga
po yung cap nyo? Ano po? Can you give us more details about the cap?
nasa ano pa po, nasa Kongreso pa rin po yung wala pa po sa amin yung draft noon, pero ito po yung mga certain features that we want included in the budgeting code. Tapos syempre yung iba rin na yung mga yung iba naman na mga executive actions din natin, yung tulad yung Project DIME, which is the Digital Infrastructure Management kalimutan ko na yung ano. Basta monitoring system po yan. Yan. By the DBM. Yan. Tapos meron din tayong third party monitoring also by the DBM din po nag-implement nun. So ito po yung mga reforms na itutuloy-tuloy natin, and hopefully nga po yung mga nagiging investigation din ngayon magkaroon ng resolution, no, para maipakita talaga natin yung ating sincerity to good governance.
Yun yung crucial, Yusek, the elephant in the room. Para magkaroon ng good governance, you need good people. At kailangan yung tanggalin yung mga bad people. Pero sa ngayon kasi, very minimal yung nahuhuli at nakakasuhan eh. Diba? Going into the SONA of the President after nung kanyang mahiya naman kayo SONA, parang hindi ganun karami. Halimbawa, of the more than 60 congressmen implicated dito sa corruption, ni isa wala pang nakukulong. Dun sa 15 contractors na binanggit ng Presidente, 0.5 kalahati lang ng isa ang nakukulong. 14 and a half hindi pa nakukulong. No? Sa pinangalanan mismo ng Presidente. Diba? So, sa kahit pagsabihin na natin na nag-aakwan tayo, upper middle income country, hindi ito masusustain kung hindi yung major reform na gagawin ay manghuli. No? Manghuli. Ibig sabihin, all the other reforms ay walang mangyayari kung walang mapaparusahan. No? So, in the immediate, hindi natin nakikita yon, no? Na merong mapaparusahan na involved dito. Interrelated dito eh. Yung nabanggit natin kanina na slow down sa government spending, it's about corruption. Diba? Yung investor confidence, partly it's about corruption. Diba? Yung mga ganun ba, yung mga pinag-uusapan natin na crucial to sustain upper middle income status, ay whether we like it or not, ay nakatali dito sa usapin ng corruption. And that is politics.
Pati nga yung gumagawa ng budget code ninyo, malakas ba pushback dun sa mga recommendations for reforms ng government? Any pushback from the lawmakers? Kasi sila yung apektado niyan eh.
Yeah, so far, wala naman po. Ang latest na report sa amin is that it's progressing quite well, at least in the lower house. So pagkatapos po sa lower house, ipapanik natin sa Senado.
Yusek, let me, kasi we started off the questions with how do we explain to ordinary people the idea
The
na
benefits of
tumaas yung average income ng Pilipino. So let me try to go back to that, and I think I missed out on something here. So basically, how do we explain it to them? Kumaga, I know it's an average, pero tumaas pa rin ang income. Whose income increased or improved? What sector ang pinakamagandang improvement that the numbers went up that much to push us up to that reclassification threshold?
Sa nakikita po kasi namin, broad-based po yung pagtaas eh, no? Pero yun nga, no? Syempre, kung pagtaas kasi, depende, parang kahit na let's say 2% tumaas din yun, 3% tumaas. On average kasi ang naging pagtaas ng GNI natin was 8.5%. Between 2024 and 2025. Dun sa iba, hindi malaking bagay itong 8.5% na to, no? Depende rin sa ano yung base na pinag-uusapan natin. Pero kung halimbawa malaking base ang pinag-uusapan natin, malaking in absolute amounts yung yung 8.5% na yon. Ang gusto po namin sabihin dito is this is actually a development milestone. Yes, it may not be enough for a lot of people, pero yun na nga po yung susunod na kailangan nating trabahuhin. Make sure that alam natin kasi na ang taas din ng disparities, ano? Yun ang unang I think the first order of the day is really to lessen to mga disparities na to para mas mas mararamdaman nga ng lahat kung ano nga tong pagtaas na ito.
I know the World Bank says the gains were broad-based. Kaya lang, if you look at recent data on manufacturing and agriculture, those two industries are down. How do we reconcile that?
Ayan po yung sa ngayon, ano? Ang tinitingnan po kasi dito yung between 2024 and 2025. So for the year, parang etong 2026, ang pag-asa po natin is maka-recover tayo tong second half of 2026.
Can we do it, Yusek? Kaya?
Kaya po. Syempre, no, we
Glass
are
half full.
like you say, kailangan natin kayanin.
We have to. Now
Cautiously
that nasa
optimistic about
UMIC.
this.
Pero
Ang
Yusek-
isang maganda po nito is, yun nga, nagde-de-escalate na yung Middle East situation natin. So hopefully this will also lighten some of the pressures, especially mga fiscal pressures dahil brought about by this Middle East crisis.
Pero anong indications ang pwede nating makita o pwede nating ipakita sa ating mga tao with regards to manufacturing at saka agriculture na this will recover, that this will improve? Ano yung mga indications na yun?
For agriculture po, medyo mahirap sabihin niya because meron nga tayo ng El Nino, no? Pero isang pwede namin ipagmalaki dito is over the past 2 years. Yan. Naging tumaas po kasi ang investment natin sa irrigation system. Actually, noong 2025 po, naging mataas po ang produksyon ng agriculture, and it's really because nag-online yung isang malaking irrigation system. Etong 2026, medyo may naging maging problema pa tayo. Pero hopefully towards the end of the year may ayos din ito. With respect to manufacturing, ang nakikita nating pag-asa din is yung sa again yung mga pati rin po pala sa agriculture, ating mga free trade agreements na sana nga po is pretty soon maging mai-ratify na to so that we can already be able to export so many more. Tapos kung sa manufacturing po, ang nakikita namin dito is yung investment on the Luzon Economic Corridor at saka syempre yun na rin mga free trade agreements natin.
Okay. On that note, we'll leave the conversation. Thank you so much for talking to us and explaining all of that. DepDev Undersecretary Rosemarie Odilion. Salamat, ma'am.
Salamat,
Thank
Yusek.
you, Yusek.
Maraming salamat po.